Hi guys, I'm not sure what happened there. We had a technical issue. We lost the stream, unfortunately. So hopefully, some of you are out there. You'll find this and will rejoin us. So sorry guys, where were we there? We looked at the highlights. Stream.
I was just explaining that leaderboard ladders will be back from tomorrow night.
Yes.
Anyone that's been waiting for that to come back, if you've got any tickets that are outstanding or problems, just give me a message. But other than that, leaderboard it has pretty much run every night during the last 3 weeks, and I think has hit most of the guarantees each of the nights for those that have decided to carry on playing it. But yeah, we'll be back with leaderboard ladders pretty much. 2 tournaments a night, Monday to Saturday, and then 4 on a Sunday night. And don't forget, it's loads of added value. We give away sort of 25 tickets a week of added value, depending on where you are on the steps. So it's well worth getting involved, and if you can, and then. But I think we should be back up on the show page now as well, Des. So
yeah, I'm just
I can't see us anywhere, but maybe.
That's all right. Don't worry, I got this.
Des has got this all in hand, which is what you always want.
There we go, guys. We are back. Business as usual.
The old video is only 10 minutes long and goes up to when it broke.
Yeah.
No issue. So listen, why don't we talk very briefly? Your final table, Dan. One character that stood out on that final table. I'm interested to get your view as to how you think he played. It was Ryan Kilby. Obviously been playing APAT for quite some time. Had a huge amount of support in the chat box, as indeed did yourself. The two of you were, without question, getting the majority of the support. How did he play, in your opinion?
So Ryan, I played with Ryan from about 3 or 4 tables out.
Yeah.
So I pretty much got to know his game. He was hyper aggressive.
Yep.
And there were a few pots I really played with him that really stick out early on before we got to the final table. I think he raised, and obviously the blinds got pretty big when we were down to 2 or 3 tables. And I remember a particular hand where he's opened like 7.5x. And the big blind just shoved for about 13 big blinds. He's sort of gone into a massive tank about calling it off. He's eventually called it off. He's got Queen 5 against Ace King, but he's got Queen 5 offsuit. So that was a hand I saw, and I just thought, okay, this guy is opening like super wide. But then again, it has its advantages as well, because obviously you don't get any respect when you do get a hand and you get your double ups, and you which again did happen to Ryan quite a lot. He managed to pick up a few hands, and he did get paid, which is why his chipstick stack was up and down. Yeah. He was always at the right side of average. So he'd do it when he had chips, but not so much when he hadn't. I think on the final table, he did sort of he did play a bit more conservative and a bit tight, and he was quite unlucky because he ran into a couple of hands when he did have hands. And, sort of raise folding or seeing flops and putting chips in. And I think he lost the first 2 pots he played on the final table. And obviously when he eventually shoved, I think it was 7s, he ran into jacks. So he's unlucky, not to have a flip or whatever and just run into one. But very, very confident and competent player.
Yeah. No, he came across that way.
You never knew what he had.
He looked absolutely gutted when he went out. Now, Lee, you had a quick word with him. Let me just play the video here. This is his exit hand. And then we'll come back and talk about your final table, Dan, because you seem to be in control pretty much throughout. But let me just play this if we can get this video up.
Ryan is all in. He's got to get through the blinds.
Okay, guys, here's your moment.
Ali being the first one. Ali says, I'm all in. Somehow gets out the way. Ali's got pocket queens. Ryan's got pocket 7s. The 7's at risk. Ryan is going to need to hit a 7.
Slowly, dealer.
King 3 ace, no good. There's a 4, 7, and only a 7. It's an 8, and we're going to lose Ryan.
Not to be.
It's not meant to be. We're going to lose Ryan in 5th. I'm going to see if I can have a quick word, whether he'll want to have a word. He is happy to have a word, so we'll come around and grab a word with Ryan. There's a lot of people at home following you, Ryan. So,
Well,
I understand they watched it, but
We've seen it.
how was it for you playing it?
yeah, it was enjoyable, and you know, it's one of them when you've come this far, and then to get that happen, it's just a bit of a sour taste, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and obviously you've been up here for a number of days. Enjoyed the week.
Yeah, class as always. You know, good laugh, good drink, piss a few people off.
Yeah. And any message for the obviously the Hetton crowd? There's a lot of them in the chat. That's great, honestly.
We lit.
There you go. Excellent stuff.
So there's the message coming in there, Lee. Hard lines, mate. Well done, Ryan Kilby. And that's what everybody's saying. Unlucky Ryan. Looks absolutely gutted, Lee, didn't you think?
Yeah, well, I must admit, I mean, it was great fun doing that final table because we got really close to the players and very careful what we said and talked about whilst they were playing hands, and hopefully didn't put them up. But you're always then in that awkward thing when someone's bust and you're sticking a camera and a microphone in front of them, and do they really want to talk to you or not talk to you, and trying to kind of gauge that. And I say Ryan was a true gent and was happy to have a chat. And yeah, I can understand he'd be gutted. I mean, I think I would be exactly the feeling the same way, I think.
Absolutely, but lovely to see the amount of support he got, there on the stream. So Dan, you seem to have control over that table. I mean, that's the way it came across to me. Obviously looking through Lee's camera and stuff like that. Particularly, how did it run out for you? Was it as comfortable as it looked, or did you have a specific strategy and did that work for you, or what was your?
It's tough to have a specific strategy right from the off. I mean, I think normal strategy is, pick your spots, pick your opponents. I knew most of the players by then, so I'd almost decided that usually when a final table starts, a lot of people are going to be a little bit nervy, gauging each other out. But I like to go in from the off, raising as often as I can. I got to be honest. First, probably 15 hands. If it raises to me and nobody's opened the action, I probably will. Just more of a little bit of a feeler to find out where you are and find out if somebody's going to put you to the test. People are going to be more likely to sort of call and build pots and then, fold a lot of flops. So it was probably finding that, but I didn't really get a chance because obviously very early on, lad raised. I want to say, I can't remember who it was. Whoever finished ninth, Canada. Can't remember his name. Really nice lad. Rinchen, sorry. So obviously he's raised, and I've not wanted my hand to look as strong as it is, and I've probably overshoved. But he's raised quite late position. I shoved ace king. He had quite a lot of chips. I think he had about 35 really early, and I've almost doubled up. And I think from then on, having a chip lead in that position and playing aggressive, and with the blinds as big as they are, you're always going to build chips. And I think I doubled up maybe like 5 people on the final. And every time I doubled up somebody up, I was still chip leader at the end of it. Yeah. So it was one of them things where even though the flips didn't exactly go to plan all the time and whatever, I think accumulating chips on that final table, if you were playing aggressive, was relatively easy.
Yeah. The flip side of that was
from what I saw. Sorry, Des, I watched you from about 5 or 6 hours, I think, and you just looked in total control all the way through. Even when you lost pots, you didn't let it phase you at all, and just went on and won the next one. So, like I said to you at the time, there could be no more deserved or more popular winner, mate. So well done again.
You're very kind.
I was going to say the flip side of how you approached it, Dan, was probably Samao. So our Portuguese player who obviously you took heads up, seemed to be, necessarily he was quite short early on, but was very, very tight early on. Then he managed to get a double up or two, and he was back in it and held on strong. I mean, what did you make of his game?
Well, it was weird because absolute gent, top bloke for a start. But as short as Samao got, and he did spend the majority of the time as the short stock on that final table, he probably looked the next comfortable. I know that's a weird thing to say, but so in my mind, something absolutely crazy happened, and I think it was 5 or 6 handed, like we've just said, Samau was, pretty much the opposite of me. He wasn't playing hands. He got it all in. He managed to get a caller. He had a nice hand. I can't remember what he doubled up with, but he'd recently doubled up, and it came. I think he was under the gun, and he's only got about 12 bigs. And all of a sudden he raises like 2.2x or something, and I'm like, well, I'm going to need kings or better here pretty much to want to get involved. Like, the guy who hasn't played a hand for literally an hour and a half is now just not shoved his 12 big ways, but even raised. So these alarm bells are going off my own. So the guy to my right folds, I fold, and then the guy to my left goes all in. And he's probably got about 9 bigs. So it goes fold, some instant calls with queens. The guy turns over ace-4 off. And you probably saw the hand. And it was just like, you've been sat at this table the same amount of time as me, and you've seen this guy has barely got a pulse. And then you pick the time he raises under the gun, the only raise he's done on the whole final table, to decide ace-4's a good spot to shove it. I mean, I'm not. It's one of them where I was quite glad because he was a little unpredictable, and with all due respect, I knew that against Simao I could be raising his blind now because he's doubled up again. He's got 25 bigs, and unless he's got something, he's going to let it go. It was also nice because it evened out the stacks. And obviously, when you take into account the money jump, so I think that happened with 5 left. So when you go 4-handed, and it sort of evened out the stacks a bit, and nobody really wanted to finish 4th, because I think he finished 6th. Because once Ryan finished 5th, then we had very even stacks. And obviously, when you're looking at the size of the money jumps, and everyone sat there with 18 to 20 bigs. When you're sat there with a really big stack, you're in a commanding position. I mean, you're in trouble to do something wrong here because the money jumps do start to get serious and people are really thinking about them. Yeah. And they don't want to be calling, seeing flops and almost like wasting chips. So I was glad actually somehow got that double up because it meant that I was probably going to keep the dynamic going a lot longer. Whereas if he'd have got short, he'd have been forced into shoving because there'd been, stacks 2 and 3 would have been double his, and it would have created a different dynamic. But that was one of the hands that really stuck out for me as, are you paying attention on what's going on here?
Yeah, that was really, really odd. And I suppose the second half of that final moved pretty quickly. I thought the first half was pretty slow and a little boring, despite the fact that Renshin went out very, very quickly. But here's your final hand, right? Let's watch this play out. This is you and Samau, and we get to talk to you both afterwards. Let me just run this.
All in the call. King 10. And it's King 10 for Simao. It's pocket 6s for Dan. It's the King 10 that's at risk.
Here we go.
Jack, ace, 9. Another ace. And another ace. That's it. It's all over. That's all over. On my camera, Des.
Wow, there we go. Incredible performance by Dan Austin, the 2022 World Amateur Poker Champion. Incredible stuff. And huge celebration on the Portuguese rail. Simao, the pride of Portugal tonight. Silver medal and £7,500 as Dan gets congratulated along the rail at DTG. What an absolutely outstanding final table and a great result. I got to say,
I'm going to go over and have a quick word with Samau because I want to have a chat with him. What a week it's been, my friend. What a week.
Three final tables, 3 tournaments is wonderful. I'm sad to lose the bracelet, but it's still a good week for me.
And tell us a little about your team that you travelled over with and to play.
Perfect guys. We have everything on this team. We have a captain. Come here.
Come on in, Bruno. Come on in. Tell me about this guy, Bruno. Tell me about this guy.
Simao, as I say, the whole week is an amazing player. Well, we run very good. So we are very happy with him. We well, I hope to bring him next year. So, Timo is amazing. Just let's celebrate.
Yeah, well, you guys have been an absolute
Thank you
tremendous
so much.
addition to this
Thanks so
event.
much.
And
All the
well
applause.
well done.
Well done, the Portuguese lads. Amazing
But they're
performance.
getting a
Well done,
nail.
Samau.
This could be a bit emotional.
A lot of respect there for
It's been a long time coming.
his brand of poker
Yeah.
and his personality.
Now,
I've never made a final table.
we'll try and keep this together, Dan, shall we? We'll try and keep it together. 'Cause Dan and I have known each other for a very long time. So, first APAT final table,
First APAT final table.
first APAT live event medal.
And look at the bling.
And look at the bling, my friend. Look at the bling. So, talk us through how you feeling.
Obviously, over the moon about that. You know, it's been a bit of a roller coaster day, and there were times when I thought I was pretty much done for. But really enjoyed the final table. Always felt comfortable. Never really felt under any particular pressure. And it's just nice to finally close one of these things out and get the gold.
Tell me a bit about, obviously, the other medalists, Ali, Samau. I mean, fun to play with that three-handed list. A lot of fun.
It was just an incredibly fun table. It was from the start, to be honest. I played with a few of the guys from a few tables out, so pretty much knew their game. They probably knew a lot more about mine and what I was doing. But as I said, it was light-hearted, like it always is at APAT. It was great fun and great banter, and you know, incredible adversaries. You know, they put me to the test several times, and yeah, I was just lucky enough to have the right cards at the right time, and some of the boards favoured me a little.
Well, Dan, from me personally, you're a great addition to our list of world amateur poker champions. And what do we think, Rail? Yeah? There we go.
Fantastic reception
We'll
for
let-
Dan Elston.
We'll let Dan get set up for his photo because it's a well-worthy winner. Round you go, my friend.
Oh, fantastically. Thank you very, very much for that. Well done, lads.
And by the way, that kiss on the head 100% gave me COVID. So that's the downside to the whole thing.
Oh, to be honest, I think we all got COVID at around that moment.
It's one of these amazing things that, like, throughout being at DTD all that time, or whatever, and you know, meeting all these people and it being in close, I've never caught it. So I scarcely believe it exists, because I think by now I would have caught it with doing Cheltenham twice and geez, all the other events I've done, and I've just not managed to catch it. So.
Trust me, Dan. It's very real.
Avoid it like the plague, literally. So I haven't had it in 2.5 years. Got it there. Terrible. So listen, a couple of people in, Dan. So Chris Bean tells us we can see you. So that was related to the tech issues earlier. Tom Clark's joined. Evening, chaps and champ. We've got Wayne Parker. Wayne, who had a deep run on day 2 of the main.
And
also,
I take full responsibility for Wayne's exits or anything whatsoever. I put a camera near him, so that blocked him completely. So yeah. So sorry, Wayne. Yeah.
Not good. Greg Mawson is there. Evening, chaps. Well done, Dan. Good show. And Tris, FFS Dan, almost tears there.
You have no idea how close I actually was.
Indeed.
I was quite emotional just watching that back, and I knew when I pulled the camera around and thought, right, well, I've got to chat to Dan now. I thought this is going to be It was reminiscent of actually the interview I did with Tristan when he won the UK team individual event up in Blackpool. It's the good guys, and they're emotional. They are emotional interviews to do and chat, and you just kept it together quite well, Dan, I thought.
Yeah, it's one of them things where it's quite easy to let the emotion like overcome you in a situation like that. Probably glad that it's last thing on a Sunday, and a lot of people have had to shoot off home by then. And but as I said, it's at the time you just I don't know. It's a big deal. It really is, and as I said, I think it's the people that make it a big deal.
No, listen, Charlie Kearns, good to have you guys back. Well done again, Dan. Now listen, talking about tears, Paul, Let's talk about this for a moment.
Nice.
You and you guys, it's a cheap link.
Segue, Dave.
It's a cheap link, obviously. But
Yeah,
you know,
nice.
there's a lot of admiration there because you all had a lot of pressure on you, right? England haven't won since 2013. You've had to sit as captain for what feels like years, but actually, you know,
2.5 years.
Fantastic phase one, but then you had a roller coaster ride thereafter. But you guys were very much in the hunt to win late on day two.
We came really close to what the Americans call a wire-to-wire victory. We were ahead from the four phases. We had massive lead after the first phase. We had a disastrous second phase, but still managed to still be in the lead. Then at the end of the third phase, we were in the lead again, and we got almost everything right, pretty much everything right. I think I allocated the right players for the right formats and all that kind of stuff. Everyone played great, and we went into the final phase of it, which is the MTT, which is where there's a lot of points to play for, with a plan that said, if we can get three of us, so 4 per team, if we can get three of us down to the last two tables in the MTT, that just gives us an amazing shot, because then every ladder gives us points, and it's unlikely that anyone will get past us. We got all four of us down to the last two tables, me on one, and then the other three on the other one. And so, like 90-something% of the time, that just wins at you right off. The only way that any team could ever beat us is if one team hoovered up all of the remaining points rather than them being spread amongst the rest of the teams. And that's exactly what Scotland did. Right? No problem at all. They played great. They ran great. They ran exceptionally great in some cases, and they're good players and great guys. So I don't begrudge them it at all. But the one thing we probably could have done slightly differently, we probably could have made more use of having three players on the same table with one Scottish player at the same time. But it was kind of hard to guide that when I was on a separate table as well. And that's looking back, that's the one thing we could have done differently. But apart from that, I mean, no regret at all. We just played so well, and we did all the right things, and just got pipped at the the final hurdle.
Absolutely, and I mean, silver is still an outstanding result, but having had the long wait, as indeed all team captains did, Paul, how did the event feel when you were playing it, and did it meet your expectations?
It was fantastic. It had been so long that it was actually more relief than kind of excitement that it was actually finally happening. And then we had kind of when the dates got confirmed, I lost a couple of the original team and made a couple of swaps. But the very lucky thing about being England captain is that you've got so many fantastic players and people to bring in if you lose a couple of people. So the fact that brought in Tom and Gaz, and Gaz as well. I mean, Gaz, I thought you got the kind of game for heads up, and he was a little bit nervous about it. He doesn't play a lot of heads up. He was like, "Are you sure about it?" He's absolutely smashed it. Won 3 out of 3. It was brilliant, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but he sent me this message afterwards, just saying about how appreciative he was of the opportunity and the support that he got and all of that. Yeah. And you talk about it being an emotional occasion. It really was, and that's that got me going a little bit. So it was fantastic. Aside from the final results, there's nothing I'll change about it. It was a fantastic opportunity, fantastic occasion.
So you were bookended by the Scots, as we saw a minute ago, but also, of course, the Portuguese lads, Simão, Bruno, and team there. I mean, how were all of those guys to play with? Is there good atmosphere?
We don't talk about Bruno. They were all absolutely golden, and all of the teams were. I mean, I didn't know any of the Portuguese knew a couple of the Dutch guys, obviously all of the the home nations ones, and it was just. It always manages to strike that perfect balance between everyone really wants to win, but everyone's there to have a good time as well, and it's not, everyone takes it seriously, but not so seriously that it gets nasty. It was just it was a fantastic event, and that's the same with the world as a whole, right? But the team event especially, it was always played in the right spirit, and made some new friends as well as seeing some old ones, and. The only thing that could have been even better is if we'd managed to hang on for the win.
I think what sums that up quite nicely, because Dan's played plenty of times for Wales over the years as well, is not jumping on to Vegas, because I know we're going to talk about that a bit, but but Paul played an event in Vegas and came back to the room one day. So I've swapped a percentage with one of the Italian guys.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
who is out in Vegas and playing and with another one of his mates, and so the three of them, and that all stems from a friendship from playing the Worlds with APAT.
Probably 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, Italy weren't even in the team event this time around, and it hasn't happened for the last couple of years. So yeah, Giuseppe Magistano.
And Giuseppe went down to the final 13, right?
He did. Yeah, my percentage swap game remains strong.
It does indeed. Oh, fantastic. Listen, before we move off of the WCOAP, and I'm going to be sad to move off of it because it has been a highlight of the last, it feels like 3 or 4 months since we got the dates out and stuff. There was a lot of excitement, then the online event, then the live event. So it seems a shame to think we're, maybe 12 months away from the next one. But c'est la vie. Just one other, performance that just stood out. It was very heartwarming. Tomo.
Hey.
Tomo, right? Winning back-to-back. I think it was in the Mix Max, I think. Winning back-to-back bracelets in the same event. So 2019 in Vienna and at Dusseldorf 3 to 4 weeks ago. What a guy. What a guy.
It really was like several for the good guys, wasn't it? It was some amazing results there.
Yeah.
We
Listen,
should have done the same in the tag team. By the way, Dan said earlier on nobody wants to come fourth. That's exactly what me and Wiggle Vision did in the tag team. Unfortunately, but, otherwise we could have got another one.
Wiggle Vision is out there. He says it was a great performance from the England team and one of the most enjoyable events I've ever been involved in throughout my poker life to date. So that's nice to hear. And of course, Tris and Joby went very, very close in the tag team, right? Getting heads up, winning the silver.
Yeah, got heads up, yeah.
Definitely a lot of good stories coming out of the WCOAP. Any last headlines on it, Lee, before we consign it to the memory?
I just can't wait to do it all again. To be honest, the 5 days absolutely flew by.
It looked great.
It's just great. See, I mean, I did a Airbnb share with Paul and JP, so that was great for 5 days. Good company, and it's always nice to say not just be stuck in a hotel room for 5 days. I'd highly recommend that to anybody who's coming up to these events. Try and get together with some of your mates and book a house or book an apartment or whatever for the duration. It's much nicer than being stuck in a hotel for the duration. So
I'm drinking the cider that I inherited from JP on that. JP doesn't believe in cider, so
fantastic.
He should.
Tell me, Lee, how did the golf go in the end?
We didn't get the golf. Didn't get the golf in. We did actually. We did manage to get a quick round of golf in Vegas on our very last day because we were killing some time. So we didn't manage to get the Gotham game going. But to be honest, Paul and I shot a pretty decent round in Vegas, according to the guys that run it. So we maybe missed a trick by not playing Team Gotham actually in Nottingham, because I think we might have been quite handy.
I didn't realise we were in with a shout for the course record. We're like 3 holes out until the guy said, and totally blocked us because like he said that.
Yeah. But
it happens. Tris is out there. Sai, grab defeat from the jaws of victory. Roll on the next one, guys. Tris, of course.
What I would say about Tristan and Joby, I mean, I was railing hard for them to win that. Really wanted them to win that. But actually, the 2 guys that ended up winning it, their celebration and what it meant to them.
Yeah.
And that probably didn't come across earlier on in the final table because, as I say, there was a little bit of shenanigans going on at that final table. But actually, they're genuinely the true kind of their feelings when they won it. I thought, fair play to them. It's nice to see some people that are new to APAT again. So, but how much it meant to them to win a bracelet and win an event.
Absolutely loved it. And it looks like victory's been claimed in the golf by default, Lee.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
There you go. Yeah. You're going to have to try and win that back next season, I think.
It's not often I'll do this, but I'm going to say one thing in defence of England in the team championship.
Oh, hello.
Is that when they got down to about 12, if you looked at the tables, England just had to carry on doing what they were doing, and Scotland had nothing to lose. Scotland were literally free rolling for the win.
Yeah.
So
People were congratulating us. Well, I had two people separately come up to us and
I
say,
heard that.
"You've won this by miles." I think that there've been some false information spread on the APAT group.
I think you were actually quite unlucky in the fact that by then they'd almost locked up second as well, so that it's not like they had to get points for second.
Yeah.
They were literally free rolling and going for that win.
Yeah,
Which gave
there's not a huge amount you can do when the guy runs ace queen off into aces and hits 4 spades to stay in. Like, but the good thing is I'm over it.
yeah. Talking about being over it.
You'll be back.
Talking about being over it, Tris, I agree. Nice blokes. It was nice to knock the guy out in the shootout the next day, though.
Fair
You never quite get over it, right? Never quite get over it.
Like the Murphys, he's not bitter.
Well, listen, if there was a way to get over it, right, here's another nice link. Going to Vegas a couple of days later would probably be it. So, Lee, Paul, you guys both went to Vegas. Tell us about Vegas. What was it like?
Well,
we can get the poker out of the way pretty quickly. you played one tournament.
Yep, pretty much.
I cashed in one tournament. I played a few bracelet events and a couple of others, and so going into the trip, I'd been to Vegas 3 times before, and they'd all been profitable. Two of them much more so than the other one. So the idea was just to keep that run going and get 4 out of 4, and we did not do that. I did get my third bracelet event cash, which was nice. That looks good on the Hendon mob, but we did not come back with more money than we took, unfortunately.
What we should say is a couple of things, which is it could be the experience of people traveling from the UK for the rest of the summer, to be honest. So we'll just put it out there now. The travel out from Heathrow, which I know others have had a similar experience as well, was shockingly bad. We were pretty much just over 3 hours from arriving at the airport to getting through security.
The queue started outside the terminal altogether.
Bloody hell.
It was a baking hot day, the Sunday after the World's finished, and it was pretty horrendous. For whatever reason, and there were delays, and I know that Heathrow forcing reduced capacity for the summer to try and manage off the situation. So would say that to start with. Vegas in general, the vibes we'd got from people was it's very hot, it's very busy, and it's got a hell of a lot more expensive. And I think that is probably three ticks in boxes there. In general, that pretty much is the case. But the move from the World Series from the Rio to Paris Bally's gets a thumbs up from me. I thought it was it was a nice setup. The new kind of where they've got the new feature tables in Bally's, which is kind of a separate room to their kind of the ballroom where they've got the bulk of the tables in Bally's, was a great setup. It was great if you were in there wanting to watch anything. Really, really good. And
it's good that it's on the strip, because it just opens up so many other opportunities for places to stay. So we were in the Cosmopolitan pretty much right opposite. Yeah. Whereas out at the Rio, it was obviously taxis every day, and the Rio itself just isn't a very nice place. So it's definitely good that it's on the strip.
And the Paris ballroom is huge and very well set up, and registration and everything was set up. Paul had a couple of hit and misses with the Bravo poker app as to whether it would accept a buy-in or not in Vegas, but I think that will move on. I really hope Luxon Pay can get a foothold in there as well, because I do believe that's the future for buying in for live events. Is that you'll just you know who the hell wants to be queuing at a registration desk for? I mean, I believe for some of the events earlier on in the series, and we'll get to chat a bit more about this next week, because we've got Chris Bean on the show next week, who's been reporting with Poker News all summer. So Chris is going to come on the show and tell us some of his experiences. But certainly, I think some of the earlier events, that people were queuing for a couple of hours just to register, which just seems absolutely crazy, doesn't it? Yeah. So
listen, guys, let's hit the headline story here, because it was quite big news, and this is the now reputedly the fake shooter incident. So, Paul, you were close by when this occurred. Can you tell us what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, so there's kind of there's a micro story which is mine, and there's a macro story which is more about false news and how it's spread on social media and all those kind of things. So I was playing an event called the Closer, which, as the name suggests, is one of the last bracelet events. Fairly late at night, gone reasonably deep. I think it was about 10 o'clock, something like that.
Should say Saturday night, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in the Paris ballroom that Lee mentioned. So this is a room that holds, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 poker players at any one time. Absolutely enormous room. There's 3 events going on. There's a Closer, there's a 5K, and there's the daily deep stack going on. So there's probably about 2,000 or 3,000 people in the room. And I'm kind of in the middle of the room, just happily playing away. And all of a sudden there's a little bit of a commotion from behind me. So I'm facing towards the back of the room. I can hear a little bit of noise. And as I turn around, someone immediately behind me shouts, "Go." And what I see when I turn around is the 1,000 or so people on that side of the room to me all get up and just run, and falling over chairs, knocking over poker chips, knocking over tables in a blind panic. And looking back now, you start thinking, well, can this really be real? And what is it? Start asking questions. At the time, you don't do that. You run because everybody else is doing the same thing. So everyone is in a mass, and it's no exaggeration, it's a stampede to get to the back of the room. People falling over each other, over tables, over chairs, there's just limbs everywhere. So I run faster than I have since school towards the back of the room. The guy in front of me falls over. I fall over him, kind of did my knee and landed on a sort of hard floor. I saw a dealer falling down some stairs. Like it's not like it sounds funny, like relaying the story, but it wasn't particularly funny at the time. So everybody gets out and everybody sort of pours out into the road. And I saw Negrano actually. I don't know if anyone saw his Twitter feed afterwards. He showed his hand. I saw the blood running down his arm. He got this sort of big gash in his hand. Yeah. Someone rather unkindly pointed out that I might not be the only man to have seen Daniel Negrano's bone, but that's a different thing. So we're all outside talking about what the hell has happened here. People are talking about shooter. People are talking about all sorts of things. And we're out there for what feels like an hour or so. And I get hold of Lee and I text a few people to say, if this is real, then I'm okay. I'm outside, all that kind of stuff. And eventually they get us all back into the room. There's a big queue. There's a bunch of medics that have turned up. There's a big queue for them because people have been far more injured than I was. I eventually got like an ice pack on my knee and that kind of stuff. But that's not. The very minor sort of knee injury that I got from it is not the thing that will stick with me. The thing that will stick with me is the fact that for 2 or 3 minutes I didn't know whether I was about to be shot at or not, and that's not a feeling I'm in a hurry to repeat. To be honest, that's not a pleasant thing. So,
you're in America, so you can't really write it off.
Say again?
I said you're in America, so the chance of being shot, you can't really write that off.
And this is it, right? So it's no one gave it a second thought. Like this is almost normal. This is perfectly not reasonable, but perfectly possible that it could be an active shooter in the room. And
it's happened in Vegas,
only
hasn't
afterwards.
It? Recently.
Again.
It's happened in Vegas fairly
recently.
There'd
been a shooting downtown just before we got there. There'd been a shooting just outside Vegas while we were there. I mean, this is not uncommon, right? So, it's absolutely reasonable for people to take it at face value, and that's what we did. And it was absolutely blind panic. It was just people just not caring about anything other than get the hell out of the room.
So, Paul,
it's not a nice thing.
Just tell us, if you can, as best you can, how you sort of process that for the next 3 to 4 hours, because that's got to be quite the shock to the system. And secondly, how did the World Series of Poker deal with it in terms of the event that you'd entered and the fact that stuff was all over the place? I mean, how did they manage that? Yeah,
that was bizarre. So we were outside for quite a while, and everyone's kind of licking their wounds a little bit. And so regardless of whether it was real or what had actually happened, people got injured, and like I saw, I think 3 girls having full-blown panic attacks, hyperventilating, all that kind of stuff. It's just not a pleasant thing. Just wasn't nice, regardless of whether it was prompted by something that was real or something that was just sort of fictional. The way they dealt with it was bizarre, to be honest. So they let everybody back into the room. Everyone got their various sort of minor injuries patched up and all that kind of thing. And then they sent everybody out of the room again, and they said, we're going to work out what happens next, to the tournament. And that seemed to take forever as well. And I don't know how they did this, but they decided that the best thing to do was obviously abandon the tournament in terms of, there's not going to be any more play tonight. No one's in any fit state to carry on playing poker. So that was obviously the right thing to do. But they decided that everyone should bag up, as if we'd made day 2, to play the remainder of day 1 the following morning and defer the start of actual day 2 by a few hours. I think day 2 was supposed to start at 1. They said day 2 will start at 5. Everyone who's still in this day 1 come back at 12. But the bit that I don't understand about that is that tables were knocked on the floor, chips were everywhere. How the hell did they work out? I mean, our table was pretty much untouched. I got back. I was pleased to find my bag with my passport and everything else in it, exactly where I left it, because you didn't have time to pick up your bags and your belongings and all that kind of shit. And they, so for our table, that was easy enough. How they did it with the chips that got spread everywhere, I think I don't know whether they just relied on the goodwill and the good faith of the people that were there, saying, oh, this is about the amount that I had. There was a couple of tables that took a bit longer than others because there was an all-in and a call at the moment where everyone scarpered out. So it was like, do we play this out or do we just take our chips back? And that's what they did.
Wow.
But I still don't. I question a little bit whether that's even the right thing to do, because I know of a few people who had absolutely no intention of coming back the following day and would just surrender their stack. There was a girl on my table because I did come back, hobbled back in and played again, and she turned up on crutches, and I had this kind of gel stuff on my knee, and I gave her some of that, and she put it on her hip. She'd really messed up her hip. She had to be helped to the table, all this kind of, fair play to her for showing the commitment to turn up and play again. But no good deed ever goes unpunished. So she immediately bust me as soon as I'd given her the gel that I gave. But yeah, people were in a pretty bad way, and some people didn't turn up at all. So I am a little bit surprised. It's hard to abandon the tournament altogether because there was another day 1 that had already played through, and there were day 2 qualifiers. So that's kind of hard. So I guess they probably did the best that they could. But
it's a tough one. Because obviously people are busted. People have got micro stacks. People have got monster stacks, and
But I'm almost less interested in that. I mean, it's interesting that they somehow managed to find a way to push the thing on. But from a personal point of view, then, Paul, like, that's not something that we experience often in our lives, if at all. How did you how did you cope with that? Because that must have been a hell of a, whatever about the physical damage, it's the mental thing of, I'm running at top speed trying to get out of a room with a potential shooter behind me. How does that work its way through your system?
I've always been very lucky, I think, in not being someone that that this kind of thing affects particularly. I'm quite a pragmatic person. I can usually brush things off pretty quickly. But there was a bit of a weird moment on our final day. So we had a few hours spare in between checking out of the hotel and needing to go to the airport. And we went over to Bally's. We played mini golf and all that kind of stuff. And then we looked in what was the Bally's, the main room, which they were packing up. There was one tournament still going on, the Tournament of Champions, and we watched that for a little while. And then we walked through from Bally's, and you have to go through Paris to get back to the bridge to get up to Cosmopolitan. And normally I would have gone into the Paris room and sort of had a look, see what that looks like without any poker going on, and I didn't want to. And that was a little bit of a weird feeling for me, because that doesn't normally happen. So yeah, it has stuck with me a little bit, if I'm honest. I have no doubt it won't stop me from going back again next year or whenever I next get out there. But yeah, it's like I say, it's not an experience I'm in a hurry to repeat, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely appreciate that, and it may take a little while, because crikey, what an experience. And I saw a photograph 1 or 2 days after, and it was just extraordinary in that the room was turned upside down, right? There were tables on the ground. There was one guy, and he was behind a table,
So
on
we're
the ground.
using poker tables as a shield.
Yeah, using the poker table as a shield. And about 2 tables away, there was a guy, the only guy, sat at a table, not 2 Fs given, was the statement. This guy was just sat there protecting his chips, waiting for the next hand. There was nobody else in the room apart from people hiding behind tables and stuff like that. It was insane. An image. It was just incredible. And I see Chris Bean, who you mentioned, Lee, and who's on the show next week. I'm really looking forward to talking to Chris. You know, when I signed up to Poker News, I didn't anticipate having to give first aid to Will Kassouf and Mike Matazow. I mean, it's just.
I know
this stuff up.
Yeah, I know some of the updating team have got some incredible stories of hiding in some of the kitchen areas and breaking through ceilings and stuff to try and get people to what they thought was safety that was needed. It just mind-boggling. I mean, the weird thing is, from my point of view, I was 54 floors up at the Cosmopolitan in the hotel room at the time when all this was going on. And Paul phoned me and said, look, this is, otherwise I wouldn't have been any the wiser that anything was even happening. It transpires afterwards from a couple of different sources that actually the hotel I was in actually was put on lockdown during this for a short period of time as well. But as Paul says, that there's so many micro stories to this, but the bigger macro, the bigger picture as to how this happened is probably as mind-boggling if you try and piece it together as to what happened. The Las Vegas police issued a tweet fairly soon after, sort of around 11 o'clock, I think it was roughly, saying there is no shooter. And it all started from an incident at the MGM Grand hotel, where a disgruntled customer was throwing rocks at a window or doors in the valet area, and that triggered everything off. Okay, so you then start piecing stories together. People came rushing from out of the MGM Grand, thinking it's a shooter. There's a bridge that goes across the front of the MGM Grand into New York. So people piled across there into New York. That disrupted the Cirque du Soleil show that was going on in New York. As people were trying to get into the theater for safety, they stopped the show, took all the people off stage into their dressing rooms. They were locked down in their dressing rooms while this was going on. This then trickled down the strip, so it hit MGM, Park MGM. It hit the Cosmopolitan, which, as I say, went on lockdown. It went down through Planet Hollywood. Oh, and the Aria as well. There was incidents at the Aria of people rushing in, trying to get safety, to then get down to where Paul was in Paris. And bear in mind, the ballroom in Paris is it's fair way at the back of the of the property. You can get at it from the garage, I guess, but this all happened in the space of 20 minutes, if that. 20 minutes maximum, probably. And it just trickled down the strip. I don't even know whether it went any further than Paris and Bally's, but certainly it got as far as there. We know that from all the poker players that were telling the story. And all of this stemmed from a disgruntled customer, social media, word spreading, word of mouth, which was just completely incorrect. And you end up with absolute carnage. I was stood out on our balcony looking at the scene down below, and I've never seen so many emergency vehicles. They were blocking off parts of the strip. Emergency vehicles just going around doing U-turns, not quite. And what you realize afterwards is they weren't doing anything with the shooter. They were already trying to react to the carnage that had been created in about 6 to 8 hotels from somebody thinking there was a shooter. But as Dan quite rightly says, it's America, isn't it? So it's when in this country, I'm sure we'd all probably go, yeah, right, okay, whatever. But it's in America, it happens all the time, and you only have to go back to the music festival with the guy was up in the Mandalay Bay taking firing off hundreds of rounds of shots. Wow. What's to say? Funnily, if Paul and I had spoken a couple of days prior, and we'd said. I think it was you that made the comment, mate, about how you thought it's really weird in the Cosmopolitan. They don't have any security on the elevators.
Yeah. It's the only hope.
Literally every other hotel has somebody on the door show you flash your card or whatever to prove that you're a guest to be allowed in. The Cosmopolitan has nothing, and I've not said this to you, Paul, but that thought go through my mind then that night was like, well, shit, I might be 54 floors up here, but if there genuinely is something going on, until you knew there wasn't, it was okay. And I think it got to about midnight, and I phoned Paul back up and said, what's the situation now? And he said, well, this is what we're doing. So, well, do you want me to come over? And I think you said, no, you're all right. And I was like, do you know what? I'm coming. I'm going to walk over. So I did the walk over from across the Cosmopolitan, then down the other side of the Strip, past Planet Hollywood, and at midnight on a Saturday night, there were people, but it was really eerie silence. Really, really quiet Strip to walk down, and they say walk down to Paris, and in and say saw Paul sat there, who just ordered me a beer. Very nice of him, thanks very much. And with an ice pack on his knee, whilst everybody else was still coming to terms with what had gone on. And I'm convinced probably 80% of people that were in Vegas that night probably are oblivious to it even happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you feel kind of silly when you hear that, like, it was prompted by nothing, but you don't know that at the time. And it was just those 2 or 3 minutes where it was just blind panic.
He was just too polite to say it wasn't your beer. After what had happened, he'd ordered himself 2 beers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. It hit social media quickly.
It's true.
And that's the global thing, right? So we all heard about it pretty quickly, and the pictures were coming out, and the Granu's picture, of course, and it was just unbelievable. Here's Tris is sort of saying, the rumor he heard was that it was kids messing around with fireworks that started it. So there's just different rumors, right?
Now, Tristan's a big Vanessa Cade follower. I know he is. I know he follows Vanessa. So Vanessa had said that it was firecrackers on her Twitter feed. Literally, I mean, she's there. She was video tweeting from the room, because she was in the room as well, and Daniel Negreanu was doing the same, but everybody was speculating what it is. Now, of course, that's not to say that that's exactly what really happened, because of course no one in Vegas wants to turn around and go, yeah, we've got active shooters on a Saturday night, because that doesn't do the business any good. Bad, and I did see Kristen Foxon was suggesting, well, we need better answers and explanations here, is suggesting that was there more to this than there actually is. Did she mention
Martians at all?
I didn't go much further with it, to be honest.
No Martians. Listen, Lee, long-term APATer, Don Logan is out there. He says, evening all, good to have some entertainment on a Sunday night again. Now in 2.5 years, Don, we've never been called entertainment before, so we'll assume you're on the beer. Right, I think that's fair enough. But listen, to finish off on the Vegas stories, we had some great results out there, right? I'm thinking particularly of Shug and Brendan. Brendan got less prominence on our show simply because it happened during the WCOAP, but an outstanding deep run in the super seniors, and Shug in the seniors.
Yeah, and Natalie had a decent run in the ladies as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So lots of really good results for APATers out there. I mean, outside of the whole shooting thing, what was the mood like? Were there many Brits around? I mean, obviously John Eames.
I was going to say, we should mention
$3 million, right?
We should mention our flight home, which was far smoother than the flight out. By the way, literally taxi drop through security at Vegas in 15 minutes flat, and laughing with the security staff at why there's 12 of them stood around doing nothing was absolutely. But our flight back was pretty much a who's who of British poker. It was absolutely insane, wasn't it, Paul?
Yeah, it was all of the top pros and also Will Kassouf. It was So we had John Eames, Matt Franklin, Simon Dedman was there. Well, I thought lived in Vegas, so I was surprised to see him flying back. But
did John Eames have 2 attaché cases?
He was. Do you know what? He was wearing the same T-shirt that he wore on the final table.
Good for him.
You can afford another T-shirt now, John.
Good for him. I have to say, I thought he was super calm from what I saw. Super calm.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah, but so I think we're assuming a bunch of them went out for the final table, and then obviously stayed out for a few more days afterwards. But yeah, I think it was genuinely. The feel I think about the World Series is there were plenty of really good stories. I think the Poker Go coverage was excellent. I think they've
yeah.
kind of nailed that on
Yeah.
giving you a good vibe as to what's going on from the series if you're not out there yourself. And certainly, yeah, the structure they've got. I mean, there's been a few suggestions afterwards of, does it go on a little bit too long? Should we, should there be really much, maybe just the closer after the main event finishes, and that should be kind of it? Does it need to go on for another, another 3, 4, 5 days or whatever afterwards, and that kind of thing, and trying to get it and not making it too quirky with some of the comps? But I think in general they hit the numbers. I'm not quite sure how they didn't smash the main event record. Because that's I think they made a bit of an error there. They put the new bounty comp on, I think, around the same time, and people were that was really, really popular because they obviously had $1 million bounty win on that as well. So, and I think maybe some people just thought, well, actually, do you know what, I'm going to play that instead, and that's, I'd prefer to play that. Maybe that's the vibe. But I think in general, the move has been great.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to get better as they learn more about what they can do and how things work. I think there was a few incidents of they were occasionally moving players between Bally's and Paris. And to be fair, that is a 5 minute walk.
So I did that. I did that once, and it reminds me of like in primary school where all the kids have to hold a rope. And they're walking down the road like this. You kind of frog march from one to the next. That's a weird thing because obviously you can't interact with anybody, and you have to make sure that everyone's going in the right direction and everyone's bagged up and all of that. That's
Is there like somebody in front with a sign just holding it up?
Yeah, exactly. Waving
tables
a
12 to 14
flag so you can't miss them. Yeah. Literally.
Oh no. So Simon Brooke, look, the last word on the shooter. We were in Mandalay Bay a few days after the shooting, but apart from a window being boarded up, wouldn't have known anything had happened.
Well, ultimately, but that's ultimately the point, isn't it? I mean, if Vegas as a whole has got the suggestion that there's active shooters on a regular basis in Vegas, I mean, you genuinely would start questioning whether you'd want to go to Vegas on a once a year or whatever. So there is, I suppose, a certain element if you kind of go, well, okay, how much of it is true, not true, or whatever. And the one thing I would add for anybody that, because there's been a lot of Twitter talk about all this and anything, and obviously I wasn't in the room at all, but from my experience of talking to those that were, is that apart from literally gunshots and bullets flying, they experienced exactly the same thing that it would have been if it had been a real shooter out there. And what you said about how Paul reacted, we got back to the room, so we walked back over and got back to the room. Like, yeah, you're good. Yeah, knees a bit sore, mate. He said, put the telly on if you want. He said, I'm buzzed. I won't be going to sleep for ages. 5 minutes it took. 5 minutes.
5
and
minutes.
He was 5 minutes, and he was absolutely sparko out.
The adrenaline just
absolutely
murdered him.
I can only imagine that's exactly what it was.
I've pretty much been asleep ever since. I've slept so much since I got back. I was going to play the high roller package satellite that Grosvenor were running tonight, and I just slept through it. I woke up just in time for this show. Slept so much.
Listen, guys, you asked the question, some people are wondering whether, in fact, the World Series of Poker is too long. The way that I tend to gauge that question myself is just trying to follow the fantasy World Series of Poker updates, right? So I know when I reach the point in the month where I'm asking myself the question, how the hell is John Murray still doing all of this writing on an event like 87 and 88 and 89? He does a miraculous job, I think. The quality of it is so bloody good, but there's so much of it. Even I'm asking myself, is this not won yet? Is this not done? Surely it's done. It's over now.
Were you not in the running, though, Dave?
I was in the running, and even I was asking, it's got to be over. I don't want to hear about it any longer. It's got to be done. But the quality of the work, because, of course, once you get into the main event, in your mind, you tend to think, well, the main event's it. It's the end of it. It's the final furlong. But it's not. There's a whole load of stuff going on around the main event.
Yeah. That's the really weird thing about it. And there's a lot of people playing that last week trying to save themselves or get themselves out of a hole. I
Get
mean,
yourselves out of a
I
hole.
mean, Negreanu lost, was it about 1.1 million, something like that? Yeah. Was it about 1.1 million? I think across the series. I mean, just had an absolute shocker of a series. It's and so we was playing anything and everything to try and rescue the summer. But yes, but where did you finish in the end, Des? Do you know the
I don't know. I think it's still going on, mate. I think it's still going. I think it goes on into August. I have no idea. I mean, at one point I led by a point, and I thought, oh my God, I might win this thing. But it feels like that was halfway through. I thought it was near the end. It was only halfway through, and now I'm about 9 points back, and I'm thinking, well, there's only about 20 or 30 events left.
Yes,
so,
you're the England of the fantasy WSOP.
That's fine.
Led right to the very end, and then fell at the final hurdle.
Listen, I wouldn't have been able to take credit for my team anyway. I had some strong advice in the background. I was happy to flick in a couple of tens, but the expertise did not come from my mind, I have to say.
Oh, is your team Pilgrim 3?
I can't possibly put that man in that particular position from a regulatory point of view, but I will say I think the guys have done an outstanding job. It has been very entertaining, and John has we say this every other night, right? He's got a very dry sense of humor, and it's quite an entertaining way to follow the series just through John's updates. But I think it's still going. I think there's still a bunch of events left, which is remarkable. I mean, it's got to be over.
Yeah, John's commitment to giving a proper write-up of every single event is staggering. That's impressive.
And I think there's actually still online events to go.
Are there?
Is that what it is? They're the ones that count? Is the online events as well? Right. Okay.
I think a couple of the last ones he's done, like the 800 and the 600, are both online events.
Wow.
Well, I apologise if anybody picked me because I can't play the online ones because we're in the UK. So
listen, Lee, let me hand you out a leading question because I know you like these. Gary McBride asked this a while ago. Hopefully, he's still there. Can't wait for the next event. He's talking about APAT here, right? Not Fantasy World Series of Poker. He said, any news? What can we say, Lee? What can we say?
We can say we've got a packed autumn planned. And we're just waiting on one particular venue because we just want to announce it all in one hit, really, is the idea. So we can tell you that there's going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be 3 UK events. And we're going to be back in Malta as well for the Malta Poker Festival. So plenty going on. And as soon as we've just got this one venue tied up, we're just going to then announce the whole lot in one hit for the rest of the year. So that's the plan. So as soon as we can do that, we will let you know. Tom has assured me we're talking within a couple of weeks, so we'll be able to get that done.
Can I take the long? Can I take the long odds on that,
I know. It's but it has just become a lot trickier in dealing with venues and getting things sorted out for what they have for dealer requirements. I mean, even Dusk Till Dawn, the best card room in the UK, as struggles and is still working on getting up to full capacity for what they want to do. So it's that's just the way it is, unfortunately, at the moment. On the fantasy games thing, I should just throw in that we've got a new fantasy football league that's up and running. I think we have had a few in the past, and so apologies to anyone that's maybe has been involved in one in the past, but I thought it's been a little while, I think, since we did a kind of an official APAT one where we've offered prizes and stuff. So I've just put a brand new clean league up and running. So if you want to get involved in that, just go and have a look on the Facebook group, and you'll see it's free to enter, and we're going to do prizes for the top 3, and also whoever wins the cup as well. We'll dish those out as well. So if you've already got a fantasy football team with the Premier League website, you can just join for free. Very straightforward to do if you want to get involved in that. So
fantastic.
So Tom Clark says in the chat, PLO8 side event, please, and thanks. Yeah, no, we very much want to make sure we can get the variants back for next year's WCOAP, and also for some more side events with our normal events as well. That'll be the aim.
Oh, Joe Chilmade. Did anyone get to count how many O's were in soon there? It was quite a few. That was a lot of O's.
Enough. Yeah, enough. But Yeah,
Although
it is.
that'll probably kill the call anyway, because when we were 10 minutes in, the last thing that I saw was a comment from Chill Maiden, and the whole call broke. I'm pretty sure that's
Well,
gonna.
I thought it
kill
was touching. She gave Dan such a big hug on the rail when he secured his win. Just looked really, really comforting. I have to say, really nice.
I'll be honest. Dan looked around, looked at the rail, and went, "Oh shit, Joe, yeah, good, Joe, yeah."
I tell you what, there's a moment in the little video, the 2-minute video from Nottingham, where Eddie is on the rail looking like that. It looks like he's eating his fingers from the tenseness of it all, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. But listen, talking about tenseness, we've got to talk about the ladies, right? We haven't got long left on the stream. I can't believe we haven't touched on sport. That's how rich a show it has been tonight. The ladies, right? England into the semis of the Euro 2022. They're playing Sweden in the semis and a potential German final. What do we think, guys? Can they make it?
Well, from what I've seen so far, they should. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely can. Getting past Spain was huge, and it's good that all of the remaining games are sold out, including a packed out Wembley for the final.
Well, to be honest, all of the England games have been an absolute sellout.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, some of the other games have been played at Lee Sports Village and those kind of things, but it's just got such traction and such a following now that the whole event has been great, and England winning it would obviously be
would be huge.
The icing on the cake.
But it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody who's been watching ladies football. The football is actually good. It's very entertaining without a lot of the nonsense that you tend to get in the men's game.
The mistake that people make is that they compare it to men's football. And everyone says, if the England women's team played a League Two team, then they'd get it. Well, yes, of course they would.
They do that.
It's not. But it's a different game. You can't compare the two. It's the technical aspects of it are comparable, but the men are always going to have the pace and power. So don't waste your time saying, it's nowhere near as good as men's football.
What I would say is a very unbiased Welshman. I watched both the Sweden Belgium game 2 nights ago, and the Dutch game was it last night or Friday night, and the quality wasn't great in either of those games. They were both 1-1-0. There was a lot of chances, but nothing really created very much. England do look like they've got plenty of quality on the go, which means if they can just continue doing what they're doing, I think it's theirs to lose. I really do.
You're complaining about watching poor quality games. You're a Man U fan, right? You see.
I was going to say it's rich. I tell you.
Hey, we're winning pre-season, I'll have you know. All right,
well,
we are winning pre-season.
Yeah, absolutely have that. There was a brilliant moment in the England group stages just before they played Norway in their second game. They didn't have the best opening game, England, but they won it. But it wasn't the most comfortable of games. But there seemed to be some mind games going on from the Norwegian manager just ahead of the Norway game. And I mean, it's a good thing for managers to be doing. But then to lose 8-0. 8-0. I mean, crikey, Norway looked like a strong outfit, and England dismantled them. So surely if they bring some of that form to that semi, I mean, it's hard to see England not go through the final minimum.
I know, but what you've got to look at as well, England don't even beat teams like San Marino 8-0. Do you know what I mean? So to be beating a team 8-0, there has to be a considerable gulf in quality. And I do think there are a few nations which have really brought on women's football in the last 5 to 10 years. And you can see by watching the tournament which teams have invested in it and brought forward it and tried to drive it. And you can see that in the others, it's almost like a pastime and got left behind. Because you've got like women, the England team, which are absolutely fantastic athletes, dedicated to the game, playing at a professional level, probably playing against countries where it hasn't reached that stage yet.
Yeah, but it's a maturity curve, right? Give it a few years, and more we'll get to that stage of development, and away you go.
And I think one thing that didn't help is I saw there was one of the mainstream newspapers who published something where I can't remember. I want to say Emma White, probably got the name wrong. for his past year as goal scoring record for England. And I'm like, you shouldn't be really making these sorts of comparisons. You should be
Yeah, I
treating
don't think
them
that's
as a
an
sport
apt
in their
comparison.
own right, and actually congratulating on them on their achievements and what they've done.
Yeah.
But I don't think making comparisons like that really help
Yeah.
anyone, because
Yeah.
it's probably just going to start more arguments than it is compliments.
Agree. I think you're right. Comparisons aren't helpful, but in saying that, they're interesting. Do you think could United have taken a run at this title? Do you think if they'd been involved?
What, the women's
No,
European?
the men's. Yeah.
I don't know whether we're there yet, but we've already won the Shanghai Cup.
Yeah,
this
Yeah, it was a
season.
good win.
We've already got that one. Good win.
It's Spurs would love to have seen a cup.
We
and
played
Everton.
we played against 3 teams in that game, and we still beat them all. Yeah. So,
to be honest, you played against
comfortably.
3 teams in the Liverpool game. Never mind any of the others.
Yeah.
I think a more interesting comparison would be how many of the England ladies team would get in the Man United first 11.
I think quite a few. Let's start with the defence.
I'll
Yes.
take the overs on 10.
Actually, quietly though, am I right in saying the Community Shield is next weekend?
It is. Yeah.
It's
it
like
is,
we're
yeah.
there. It's back.
The Football League starts next weekend. I'm
Does
going
it
to
really?
my first
There you
Warsaw
go.
game on Saturday. Yeah, and we're on a high, having just beaten Solihull Moors in the pre-season friendly. So watch out.
Must be the
Well,
first time the Football League's ever started in July.
Do you know it probably is.
Maybe.
It's
Yeah.
usually second week in August.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they've brought it forward because of the Qatar World Cup, and
Yeah,
they're gonna
maybe.
finish it earlier.
There won't be
Well,
there won't be a lot
But
of.
we don't pause.
But I don't think the Football League is paused. Is the Championship pausing? I think it is.
I think the Championship does. Obviously, I've no interest in the Championship at all.
I think the Championship
League 1
and
and 2
Premier
don't.
League pause around second week in November.
Yeah, but League 1 and League 2 are playing straight through. So I don't quite know
Yeah.
why they've started this early, other than they normally start the
I
week
think
before the
League
Premier
1 and
League.
League 2 normally start this early because they usually start a week or two before the Premier
Yeah.
League.
But they always started a week earlier, but not as early as this.
And you've got to remember the Premier League's got 38 games, League 2's got 46 games.
46. Yeah.
So,
But that's always the game.
get in. So it only makes sense for.
Well, I it seems like no length of time. When I was saying to Sham, well, the football's over now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, like over the weekends for the all of these weeks to come. But somehow there was sports on every weekend, and
Yeah,
football seems
yeah.
to not have stopped.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure how that happened.
the Football League starts the same day as the Women's Euros final. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Where's the Community Shield being played then, Des?
Leicester.
Obviously, it can't be played at Wembley. Really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Leicester. It's been played in Leicester.
Wow.
Not
Okay.
it's just another glorified training game. Unless Liverpool win, in which case it's the first final of the season.
It's a trophy. Yeah.
Honestly. But the league is back, guys. That was so exciting. Cannot wait. Any other sports that we have to discuss, Lee? I mean, crikey, there's World Athletics. There's all sorts of stuff going on.
It's been ridiculous. I mean, we caught some of the golf whilst we
the
were
golf.
in Vegas as well. The golf was absolutely superb. It was, and obviously the Formula One looks like it's already a 1-car race, isn't it? Pretty much.
Beginning
You're a
to-
big
yeah.
F1 fan, yeah.
Well, I mean, look, it would be a 2-car race if the other car could stay on the track. Bit like Skelectrics, really. The second, there's always a car that you just can't keep it on the track. Well, this year that's the Ferrari, I think. But it's just nice to see them going around in any event.
But isn't it a done deal already? So what's his
Looks-
60 something odd points
looks
with
to be.
10 races? I mean,
Well,
a bit of a
they're not
non-starter of a
They're not
season.
quite.
then.
They're not quite halfway there yet. Stuff can change, but the Red Bull team, they know what they're doing. I can't see them losing it, I have to say.
And I know you're probably not so interested being an Irishman, Des, but didn't you guys play New Zealand?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, two big test wins.
History making.
Yeah, the first time we beat them in a test in New Zealand, and we did the same thing the following weekend. Incredible stuff. So
So,
apparently, we're number 1 in the world. Apparently.
Northern Hemisphere, your teams have been absolutely smashing it.
Yeah.
We got very close to doing the same with South Africa. Obviously, winning a test over there was a big deal, but then couldn't quite see it through in the final one.
Yeah.
at the end. But we're still in transition. So we've been in transition for about eight years now, I think.
When is the World Cup next year? I'm going to say France.
So. Yeah,
it's France.
France
probably
23, I think. Yeah.
Q3 of 2023.
Yeah.
You'd be mad to write France off at home.
Oh, I wouldn't write France. Oh, I wouldn't write. There's a lot of countries I wouldn't write off.
Well, from about 8 months ago, I said France and South Africa. You've got to watch.
Yeah. Do Wales have anything to offer?
No.
You can't develop anything in the next 12 months?
We're in transition, and the transition is going to be a lengthy one, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Sometimes it isn't. We've sometimes gone into transition and we've managed to, within 18 months, switch it round. I think this one's going to be a little bit of a longer... and
it's hard to say that, having won, the Six Nations, just over a year ago. But how we won that, I have no idea. It was by hook or by crook, and we squeezed some results that we shouldn't have done. But we don't look like doing that at the moment. And
I think your first win in the Six Nations last season, that was a huge one for you. It created a bit of momentum. But that's the thing about Wales. You're always going to fight to the death. I imagine. Frank Bailey's out there and says Kerry beat Galway in the All-Ireland final at Crowe Park today. They did indeed. I saw the second half of that game. Absolutely delighted to see Kerry win it, because Galway are my county's next door neighbours, and we certainly didn't want them winning.
There's probably one last sport we probably need to discuss is the EPT's back in London.
Right. So somebody raised this. Who raised this?
Kristen.
It was Chris. So, I mean, when is it? Great to see if you've got a spare. What is it, £5,000?
I want to say end of October.
Well, it's on the back of a couple of things. There's a couple of things to add into this, really, I guess, is that PokerStars are clearly back in with live poker in the UK. So they've got a UK IPT that's taking place in Nottingham. I think it started this weekend and runs through next weekend. And they've now announced the EPT London with a UK IPT London attached to it. So it's a fairly big festival that's going to have both the ability for more recreational players to buy in. It's still £1,000 for a UKIP, or it might be 500. But it's 11
1,000 plus one.
But it's doable. And then obviously an EPT London on the end of it. It really feels like stars are back flexing some muscles in the UK, and we may well see a more regular annual tour with maybe 4, 5, or 6 stops throughout the year. I mean, which would be great.
Are you suggesting they're going to start competing with us, Lee?
With us? No, you can't compete with us. Did you watch that final table coverage? Honestly, they've got they've got nobody that could hold a handheld camera for the number of hours that I did.
While we're talking about forthcoming poker events, can I do a little plug?
Go for it.
You mentioned Natalie earlier on, and how well she did out in Vegas. She did really well in the ladies' event. The other thing she did out in Vegas was another Hearts of Queens event, and raised a load of funds for predominantly women's charities out in Vegas. And the next big one of those will be at the Goliath, which of course is also only a few weeks away. So I imagine a lot of people listening will be going to the Goliath and bring money, and not just money, bring things. So Natalie will tell you what to bring. Some of the causes like food, some of the causes like nappies and sanitary products and all those kind of things. So yes, await further guidance, but all contributions would be gratefully received.
Very good shout out, Paul, I have to say. And that's an important topic. Perhaps maybe the last of the night. Tris does say, and I think we'd have to mention this. Tris is saying, buzzing, I'll be trying to get into anything. So obviously he's going to be trying to sat into some of those EPT or UKIP events in October. But obviously...
We're still talking about poker, right?
I think so. But obviously, APAT is the priority. Quite right, Tris.
There's something I actually picked up on. So when I did look about, because obviously it's interesting, you've got a huge event in your own country. So it's, less travel, less probably easier, more accessible than something else. So I did have a look at it. And PokerStars are running qualifiers to win a package. And there's something that I noticed which stood out. And I want to, you can shoot me down if I get the math wrong, but I think it's about €10,500 package, so about £9,500 for a 5,300 buy-in event, which leaves 4,200 for expenses, and they're going to give you approximately 500 for travel. So I think they're basing that your hotel for the event is going to cost £3,800.
Where are they putting you up, Dan?
So the event is in the Park Lane Hilton.
Nice.
That's-
Expensive.
Oh, yeah,
Sounds
that's-
expensive, Dan. That's about right.
Mate,
1,400 a
that's
night.
one night. That is one night.
Okay,
So
now.
it's only, but it's quite a thing that you're winning a package and literally half the money is going half your.
That is extreme. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Dan. I don't think
Dan.
I've ever quite heard of it to be that much, unless you're flying overseas and
Yeah.
you know. An
Listen,
all-inclusive.
Dan, I'm about 20 minutes out of London. For half that money, you can come and stay with me. All right?
I might well do that, you know. I'll be pimping my room out, and there we are. Tristan's just said, yeah, it is Park Lane.
Park Lane.
And ironically, when you were talking earlier about shuttle buses and people being thing back and forth, I believe that the cash games are going to be they're not running any cash alongside the festival, but they are going to be running a shuttle bus back and forth at the Hippodrome if you do want to play cash. So again, I think it's another one of them things of trying to find suitable venues for the size, and they've said, okay, we found somewhere. However, we are, almost at capacity with what we've got planned, and so they are putting cash games on.
How a lot of these work from a legal side with licensing and stuff is that a lot of the venues, like the Hippodrome, will have its own venue for being at the Hippodrome, but it will also then have licenses for being able to do so many events a year elsewhere within their license. So I'd imagine to be able to put something on at a hotel in London, they're using up one of their licenses, but they will try and limit the amount of, I guess, cash and that kind of thing that's at the actual venue, which makes obviously perfect sense, really, I guess. And they're far more set up for running cash games back at the Hippodrome in a casino environment than they are ever going to be in a hotel.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen, on that bombshell, I think we're going to call it for the night. All that's left to say is a big thank you to Paul and Dan for joining us. Well done on your pursuits over the last few weeks, gents. Lovely to have you on. Hopefully, you'll join us again at some point in the not too distant future. Lee would say leaderboard ladders are back tomorrow night, right, Lee?
Yeah, I will.
Get
I will say all of that. I will also say that next week on the show we have got, as I mentioned before, we've got Chris Bean, who has been reporting, and also I don't know whether it's too soon, but we also have the captain of the World Championship Amateur Poker team event. Scotland's very own Ben Burnhill will be on the show next week as well. So we'll be doing some more WCOAP and more Vegas stories. So yeah.
Oh, Haycock is not being generous there. He's not being generous at all.
I'm delighted for him.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, on that bombshell, we're going to say goodnight. I'm going to leave you with our WCOAP video, and Lee and I will be back with Chris and Ben next Sunday night. So thanks again, guys. Have a great week.
Always a pleasure.